In this lesson, let us begin with a very concrete, real-life question. How do you actually start doing more of the things you avoid without freaking your nervous system out or feeling like you are pushing yourself off a cliff? Up to now, you have built a solid foundation. You understand that your pain is real, but often driven by an overprotective nervous system rather than ongoing damage. You have started to change your inner story about pain, and you have practiced somatic tracking, meeting sensations with curiosity and safety instead of panic. Those are the bedrock skills. In this video, we are going to add the next major pillar of pain reprocessing therapy, graded or safe exposure. Graded exposure is the process of gently and systematically approaching movements, activities, and situations you have been avoiding because of pain and fear. You are not forcing or punishing yourself. You are not proving toughness. You are teaching your brain, step by step, that what it has been treating as dangerous is, in fact, safe enough. In PRT, graded exposure is always paired with the skills you have already learned: reconceptualization and somatic tracking. We will walk through why graded exposure is so important, how the fear-avoidance cycle keeps pain going, and then, most practically, how to build your own exposure plan. By the end, you will have a clear starting point you can turn into action. Let us start with the fear-avoidance loop, because this is what exposure is designed to break. When you have been in pain for a long time, your brain naturally starts to link certain movements and situations with threat. Maybe you bent over once and had a sharp, terrifying flare. Maybe you walked on a hard surface and your pain spiked. Maybe sitting in a chair at work has become associated with hours of suffering. Your brain remembers these events. It learns bending equals danger, or walking far equals danger, or sitting equals danger. The next time you consider doing those things, fear shows up. Your mind might say, if I do that, I will pay for it, or I will make my condition worse, or I might end up stuck in bed again. To avoid that feared outcome, you understandably avoid the movement or situation. You bend less, walk less, sit less, or withdraw from activities and places you used to enjoy. In the short term, avoidance can feel like relief. At least I did not trigger it today. But here is the trap. Every time you avoid something out of fear, you never give your brain the chance to find out whether that thing is actually as dangerous as it believes. The prediction, bending is dangerous, goes unchallenged. Over time, this actually strengthens the fear. The world becomes smaller. The list of things I can do safely shrinks, and your nervous system becomes even more vigilant. Graded exposure does the opposite. Instead of avoiding, you gradually, gently move toward the things you fear in small, doable steps. You create situations where your brain expects disaster, but disaster does not happen. You combine that with somatic tracking and reconceptualization so that each step becomes a powerful learning event. I thought this would wreck me. I did it slowly, with support, and I turned out to be safe. In the language of the nervous system, this is called creating prediction error again and again. Your brain predicts threat, you experience safety. With repetition, the brain updates. The danger tag on that movement or situation begins to fade. Now, best practice in PRT is to make graded exposure very tailored to you. It is not about generic exercises that ignore your fears. It is about your specific avoidance map. So let us start building that together, step by step. First, you identify the activities you have been avoiding or doing only with a lot of tension and fear. Think about your daily life. What do you say no to because of pain? What do you approach with dread? It might be bending to pick something up, sitting through a movie, walking a certain distance, lifting a bag, driving, cooking, gardening, playing with kids or grandkids, going out to social events, or even being intimate. You do not have to catch everything at once. Start by writing down 5 to 10 activities that matter to you and that currently feel scary or heavily pain-linked. If you want, you can pause this video at some point later and do this as a written exercise. Once you have your list, the next step is to rate how difficult or scary each activity feels right now, on a scale from 0 to 10. 0 would be no fear at all. 10 would be extreme fear, something that feels impossible at the moment. For example, you might rate sitting for 5 minutes, 3, sitting for an hour, 8, walking for 5 minutes. 4. Walking for 30 minutes. 9. Bending to pick up a light object. 5. Lifting a heavy box from the floor. 9. These numbers are not objective. They are about your felt sense. What matters is how your nervous system currently experiences these activities. Now you have the beginning of what is called an exposure hierarchy, a list of feared activities ranked by difficulty. This is a key tool in best practice PRT. The next principle is crucial. You start small. You do not leap straight to your 8s, 9s, or 10s. That would likely overwhelm your nervous system and just confirm its belief that these activities are dangerous. Instead, you choose 1 or 2 items in the low to moderate range, maybe around a 3 or 4 out of 10. These are easy wins for training your alarm system. For example, you might pick sitting for 5 minutes and walking for 5 minutes as your first graded exposure targets. They still feel a bit scary, but they are not overwhelming. They are close enough to your comfort zone that you can approach them with some confidence. Before we talk about how to actually do an exposure session, let us bring in the other PRT skills you have learned, because graded exposure in this method is never just mechanical do the thing. It is always infused with reconceptualization and somatic tracking. When you plan an exposure, you start with your new understanding. My pain is real, but my nervous system is overprotective. This activity has been tagged as dangerous, but based on medical assessment and pain science, I know it is safe enough to try. You remind yourself that you are not testing the strength of your tissues. You are retraining your alarm system. Then, as you do the activity, you bring in somatic tracking. You pay light, curious attention to sensations as they arise. You notice fear, you notice changes in intensity, you label them, and you offer reassuring messages. Yes, I feel that. This is my alarm getting loud. I can breathe with this. This is safe enough. Finally, you bring in an attitude we will talk more about in a later video, but that already matters here. Outcome independence. That means you are not hanging the entire meaning of the exercise on whether your pain goes down immediately. Instead, you are focusing on the process. I did the activity and nothing catastrophic happened. I was able to stay with the sensations with some degree of calm. That is a success, even if the pain did not vanish. Now, let us walk through what a single graded exposure session might look like, step by step. Imagine your first target is walking for 5 minutes, which you rated as a 4 out of 10 in fear. Before you start, you set a clear, modest goal. Today, I will walk for 5 minutes at a comfortable pace. That is it. You are not secretly hoping to do half an hour. You are not trying to prove anything. You are sticking to your plan. You begin with a brief reconceptualization. You might say to yourself, I have been afraid that walking will damage me, but I know from my evaluations and from pain science that walking is generally safe and healthy, and that my pain is driven by a sensitive nervous system, not by severe damage. I am doing this to show my brain that walking can be safe. Then you start walking. As you move, you bring in a light somatic tracking. You might notice your feet landing, the swing of your arms, the air on your skin. When your attention naturally goes to the painful area, your back, your hips, your knees, you gently say, there is that sensation. It is there. My system is used to firing the alarm here. I am safe enough. I can keep walking at this easy pace. You keep your shoulders as relaxed as possible and let your breath flow. If during the walk the pain spikes from, say, a 4 to a 6, you pause for a moment mentally. You do not immediately stop and rush home. You notice, okay, the alarm is louder right now. That makes sense. My nervous system has been trained to see this as dangerous. It is not a sign of damage. I can slow my pace, maybe walk a bit more gently, and see what happens. You continue to track, to breathe, and to reassure. At the 5-minute mark, you stop walking, even if you feel like you could go longer. This is important. Stopping where you planned reinforces that you are in charge of the process, not chasing some magic threshold. It also helps prevent the I overdid it, and now I am paying story, which can be very discouraging. After you stop, you take a minute to reflect. You might ask yourself, what did I fear would happen before the walk? Maybe you feared collapsing, feeling unbearable pain, being stuck, or ruining the rest of your day. Then you ask, what actually happened? Perhaps you did feel more pain, but you did not collapse. Perhaps you felt fear, but you were able to keep going for the planned 5 minutes. Perhaps you realized your body could move more than your brain thought. This gap between what you predicted and what actually happened is the heart of graded exposure. You can even write it down briefly to reinforce the learning. I walked 5 minutes. Pain increased from 4 to 6, but nothing catastrophic happened. I coped. This is evidence that walking is safer than my brain thinks. You can repeat that kind of exposure several times a week, at the same level, until your fear or distress rating for it begins to drop. Maybe walking 5 minutes moves from a 4 out of 10 in fear to a 2. When that happens, you know your nervous system is recalibrating around that activity. Then, and only then, do you consider gently increasing the challenge, maybe to 7 or 10 minutes. The same process can be applied to almost any feared activity. Let us take bending to pick something up, which might be a 5 or 6 on your fear scale. You start by planning a very small, specific version of the movement. Perhaps you decide, today, I will practice bending halfway toward the floor while holding onto a stable surface 5 times. You are not jumping straight into lifting a heavy object from the ground. You are choosing a manageable step. Before you bend, you reconceptualize. My spine is designed to move. Many people bend like this all day, with the same scan findings I have and no pain. My brain has become afraid of this movement because of past experiences. I am going to show it that this particular bending is safe enough. As you bend, you bring in somatic tracking, noticing the sensations in your back or legs, labeling them neutrally, reminding yourself, this is my alarm, not damage. You breathe. You keep your body as relaxed as you can while still feeling supported. You do your 5 bends, then you stop, regardless of whether you felt like doing more. Afterward, you reflect on what you feared and what actually occurred. If your prediction was, my back will spasm and I will be stuck, and what actually happened was, my back tightened, but I could stand back up and walk around, that difference becomes new data for your nervous system. Throughout this process, compassion is crucial. Graded exposure in PRT is not a boot camp. It is closer to how you would encourage a frightened friend to re-enter the world after a difficult time. You would not drag them to their most terrifying situation and leave them there. You would break it down, go with them, speak kindly, and celebrate small victories. You are learning to be that kind of companion to yourself. There will be days when an exposure feels easier and days when it feels harder. There will be times when you do a movement and feel surprisingly okay, and times when you do the same movement and your pain flares more. This variability does not mean the approach is failing. It reflects the fact that your nervous system is influenced by many factors: stress, sleep, mood, context. What matters is the overall direction over weeks and months, not the noise from day to day. As you continue through this course, you will refine your exposure plan, adding in more meaningful activities and increasing your freedom step by gentle step. You will also learn how to combine this with emotional work, thought work, and lifestyle support so that your nervous system is getting a consistent message of safety from many angles. For now, your task after this video is simple but powerful. Pick 1 or 2 activities you have been avoiding that feel like a 3 or 4 out of 10 on your fear scale. Write them down. Design a very small, specific version of each that you can practice several times in the coming week. Pair each practice with reconceptualization beforehand, somatic tracking during, and a brief reflection afterward. You are not racing. You are not proving anything to anyone. You are building a new association in your own nervous system. I can move toward the things I fear, in small steps, and discover that I am safer and more capable than my pain has led me to believe. In the next video, we will talk more about expectations and outcome independence, how to keep your nervous system in a learning mode instead of a pressure cooker where every exposure becomes a test of whether your pain is fixed yet. That mindset shift is essential for sustained change. For now, know that every small, intentionally chosen movement you make in the direction of your life is a message to your brain. I am not fragile. I am retraining you. We are walking out of this together.